Hey guys, Lee with Mantis Mechanics, here to show you the second part of the hardest stance in Kung Fu, the single leg crouch stance. Now, if you haven't seen the first video, I suggest you go look at that one first. But if you have, here we are on part two. We were talking about the single leg crouch stance, which is any time one leg has all the weight and the other leg is either on the heel or the toes. It doesn't matter. But this leg is this thigh is parallel to the ground. So the biggest issue that you usually see is a bad motor pattern. So in order to explain that, I'm going to use an analogy with the three-sectional staff. So here it is, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what that means. All right, here we have a three-sectional staff. Okay, it's just piece of wood, chain, piece of wood, chain, piece of wood. All right, so we're going to number these sections 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so what happens in a bad motor pattern, okay, is that things fire off or start moving before they're able to move or before they're supposed to move. So here's the example: 1, 2, 3 sections. If section 1 starts to move, you'll see that the chain elongates. The second stick starts to move, then the chain elongates, and the third stick starts to move. Okay, so now this staff is at full range of motion, meaning it was short here, now it's longer at the end. Okay, so if I take this three-sectional staff and I put it back to where it was, okay, so first time I started 1, 2, then 3. This time I'm going to start moving 2 first. Okay, so 2 starts to move and 1 moves at the same time. The chain elongates, and then 3 starts to move. But unlike in the first example, the chain is kinked over here at 1. Okay, think of that as range of motion. Okay, this is only an analogy. It's not exactly how the body works, but it's pretty darn close. Okay, and you'll see why in our example next. Okay, so now I'm going to start the chain kinked here, and I'm going to start with the third staff moving first. So the first stick is going to move first. Now you can see all 3 sections start to move at the same time. And this is actually interesting too, is that this staff here is starting to push and it's starting to kink. And this is pretty much what happens in the human body. Okay, you end up with something like this. You lose range of motion. At some point, this no longer became a straight staff. It became 3 separate parts, okay? So what does this all mean? Well, let's head back over to the chair and we'll find out. Okay, so as we saw with the three-sectional staff, if things didn't move in the proper order, it started to get jammed up. Well, the same thing happens in your body. And the best example of this would be bending and touching your toes. If I stand with my feet together and I round my shoulder, I want you to round your shoulders, round your upper back, put your chin down, just hang loose there, and then slowly try to touch your toes. Doesn't matter if you can actually touch your toes, doesn't matter if you touch your hands or if you touch your head to your knees. That's not the point of this exercise. Okay? Just note how far down you were able to go. Now, what I want you to do is keep your back straight, and you're going to bend at the hips. And then at the end, you can round your back, but you want to bend at the hips first and touch the ground. Now, again, doesn't matter if you actually touch the ground or not. This is just an exercise to show you what bad motor pattern drills look like, right? Or skills. So when we do this, one of those should have felt a lot less effective, meaning you weren't able to go as far down. And that was the one where you rounded your shoulders first and then came down. Right? You can see I'm just barely touching the floor on this one. Now if I go and take my hips and bend at the hips first and then down, I can easily touch the ground, no problem. Okay? Again, this is not a flexibility drill. It's just to show you how your range of motion is limited by the sequence in which you do things in your body. So what does this mean for the single leg crouch stance or mantis stance, cat stance, tiger stance, whatever you want to call it in your system? It's okay. What it means is that if you start this movement in the wrong sequence, you will never get to thigh parallel. Okay, so if and this is the most common problem I see after 10 years of teaching, I'll see this the most frequently, is they're going into their stance and their knee bends forward first. So they end up like this. See, a lot of people, they do this stance, they do whatever way you want to do it, but they start with their knee first, the hip barely bends at all, and if they try to go low, if you watch me here, I'm going to try to go low, and that right there, I start, my leg jams up, I feel a lot of pressure on my knee, and I start to lose my balance. I can't go any lower than that. And that was not that low at all. That wasn't even close to parallel. That wasn't even probably 45 degrees. And the reason why is because I put my knee at maximum range of motion. It's all the way over my toes. This is bad for my knee. Over time, if I hold it like that, I'm going to probably blow out my knee. Okay? So, you should initiate this movement with the hips. But if you just tell people, hey, initiate it with their hips, what does that mean? They might start by doing this. Doing this kind of thing. That's no good. I initiated the movement with my hips, but that's no good. Okay? So grab a chair, okay? And you can put a book on the chair if they have a hard time getting this low. Doesn't matter. You can do this on a box, a bench, doesn't matter. But I'm going to put my leg right up against the chair. So my calf is touching the chair right now. And now you're going to notice I'm going to start this movement with my knee, and I bend the knee. My calf has moved away from the chair, and then I'm going to try to go down. And you can see at some point I just plop down on the chair. My knee is at this weird acute angle, and if you notice, my heel has come off the ground. Doesn't matter how much dorsiflexion I have, my heel has come off the ground because this is false motor pattern. My butt is also not fully seated on the chair. It's sort of halfway on the edge. No good. Okay, so what you're going to do is have the student, or for yourself, you put your calf against the chair and just tell them, put all the weight on one leg and then sit down in the chair. And you can see no plopping. My leg is at that nice 90-degree angle. My heel is still on the ground, and I'm sitting down in the back of the chair. This is how you want to do your stance. Okay? So again, I'm coming here, and I can go slow, try to go as slow as possible, and get down into the stand. Right? So you may have people that when they're doing this, they're going to go here, and then all of a sudden they plop. That's okay. Right? You just want them to get used to putting their hips back first like they were sitting down. And that's going to be the proper sequencing for the hardest stance in Kung Fu. Now, we are going to give you some videos on progressions on how you can use different tools to help you with this stance. This is the hardest stance, like I said, to do. So we're going to give you some little progressions that are going to help you go from a higher stance into a lower stance, and you'll be amazed at how quick you can get to that thigh parallel standard. Okay? Let me know what you think of this in the comments below. And until next time, guys, keep practicing.